The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Government considering adjusting budget allocation to ministries, departments and agencies ahead of mid-year budget review tomorrow. Also, National Communications Authority maintains mobile internet is amongst the cheapest in the sub-region. We'll tell you more. Much later on in this package, Overlord of the Gonja State, Yagbon Rabi Kunuto Jewu Swale, directs the Secretary to the Gonja Traditional Council to write to all paramount chiefs in the area to enforce a ban on MP for Damango Samuel Abujinapo. We'll tell you why. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, government is considering adjusting the budget allocations to ministries, departments and agencies to address overspending. This was communicated to the International Monetary Fund as part of its July 2024 country report on Ghana. The report further notes that the government would also make adjustments to quarterly spending based on cash forecast. Let's run you through what the government has been saying to the fund. It says that it stands ready to deploy contingency measures if need be. On the revenue side, the government could bring forward the implementation of some of the measures in the medium-term revenue strategy. On the spending side, the government says that it stands ready to also adjust MDA's budget allocations at the time of the mid-year budget review if needed to address overspending and or the materialization of risks posed by the energy sector shortfall. Again, the government will adjust quarterly spending allotments if warranted based on cash forecasts and conditions in domestic debt markets. So let's bring you some specifics. The status of implementation of the IMF program, expand GIFMIS infrastructure that has been met. PURC to publish quarterly report on audit of ECG that has also been met. Promote financial stability not met, is being met with rather delays towards implementation. Strengthen the Bank of Ghana independence, that has not been met yet as well. Now, some key economic data as of June 2024. Unemployment rate still stands at 14.7%. Ghana total debt, 658.6 billion Ghana cedis. That's equivalent to $53.1 billion. Again, debt to GDP ratio is 62.7%. GDP, $84.68 billion. Monetary policy rate stands at 29%. Inflation stands at 22.8%. I'm sure you remember that it dropped from a little over 23 to 22.8% quite recently. My colleague Judith Brown is out in town gauging the mood of Ghanaians ahead of the mid-year budget review. But let's bring you what she found when she interacted with some Ghanaians.
In the 7th month of the year 2024, and as always, the mid-year budget review is set to be read in Parliament by the Finance Minister on the 23rd of July 2024. Well, we're here on the Osu Oxford Street, and we will be sampling the views of some section of the public as to what really they are expecting ahead of the budget review.
The dollar and then the fuel, these two things makes things very difficult around us. So if they can do something, I know there are a lot of taxes on the fuel. That's why fuel prices keep escalating every now and then. So if they can reduce some of the taxes for fuel to come down, and also do something about the dollar, I believe we the citizens will be a bit okay.
The taxes is too outrageous. The income taxes, the taxes concern our business, everything. And now when it comes to our transportation, even today, I think transportation have increased. 2 weeks ago, fuel too has risen. Things are expensive when you go to Mokwala, everywhere. Our roads are very bad, to be honest. Now, Ghana is no more Ghana again. No. Ghana is ugly.
We the youth now, we are suffering of the economy right now. is it going to reduce the taxes? Unlike what happened in Kenya recently, that the taxes are very high, that the community members are protesting against. I don't want such thing to happen here in Ghana. So at least they should reduce the taxes for we the students so that we can also cope with the economy.
Well, you heard for yourself, but would the mid-year budget review really be reflective of these concerns of some section of the public? Well, we're yet to find out.
And we'll indeed find out, but some members of parliament have also been talking regarding their expectations tomorrow. Take a listen.
They've not done anything. They've not done anything. Ghana is dead. They cannot get money anywhere. They have promised this country that Bawumia has said it and said it again, where he will never become the president. Whatever Bawumia and Adu can do for Ghanaians, we are expecting them to do within these 4 months. Especially, they should reduce the taxes that they believe that they will cancel. The e-levy should go so that Ghanaians will clap for him. Else, after 4 months, he will not be anywhere to come and reduce taxes or to cancel taxes. So we are saying that they should tell all the taxes that they say they will repeal. They should do it now. They should do it now because the more the taxes are there, when you go to the port, levies and all the levies are not taxes. You see, the levies are just like armed robbery. So all the levies should be removed. The COVID levy, the Bolland levy, the other levies should be removed. So the inflation will stabilize. Otherwise, we are dead in this country.
I am not expecting anything new. You know, this government, they have failed in all the sectors of our economy. Because what I heard is that it is just a normal statement the minister is coming to read to us. It's not as if they are coming to review or ask for any more budgetary allocation. So that is what I've heard. So let's wait till tomorrow and see whether they will live up to their own words.
It will be about 5 months to the election. Do you think the minister can bring something that will change the fortunes of the economy and ensure that things are turned for the better out of the election?
Not at all. Not at all. Things are getting worse on daily basis. There is nothing. There's no margin from anywhere. They are just struggling and looking for money, at least to restore themselves more, so that when they go back to opposition, they can have something to live on. There's nothing, absolutely nothing.
And you heard some members of parliament speaking to our correspondent, Komla Kluche.
This government can do to change the fortunes of this government.
We'll be connecting to Komla Kluche very shortly, but ahead of that, we're joined by Professor Patrick Isuming. He's an economist at the University of Ghana Business School. Good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon to your listeners. Thanks for having me.
I don't know whether you had the chance to listen to some of the things the government intends to do. I probably may run you through a bit of it. It says it may consider, for instance, reducing spending, amount of money that goes to MDAs, at this time. Do you think Ghanaians should take the word of the government now, at this time, with 5 months to the election?
Well, I think that would be very surprising if that were to happen. So since the problems began towards the end of 2021, a lot of Ghanaians, individuals, the people in academia, have been clamoring for government to rationalize its expenditure a little bit. But that has not happened. And don't forget that the last time the government said it was going to cut spending, discretionary spending by 30%. That didn't happen. So at this point, having been in an IMF program and the main budget having been read, barely 5 months to the end of the year, I'll be quite surprised if the government actually came back saying, I'm going to cut the expenditure. I don't think that even if it was announced, I'm not sure many Ghanaians will believe that.
So you're saying that this communication that was given to the International Monetary Fund was not partly the truth because the government cannot simply do it?
Well, it may have given that communication, but I think the reality of whether that will actually happen, is yet to be seen. Like I said, in the lead up to announcing that we were going to the IMF, when the difficulty started, that was one of the promises that the government made. And throughout the process, even during the negotiation with the IMF, there had been strong arguments being made that in addition to trying to raise more revenue, the government should also cut its expenditure. That has never happened. So for a government that has for 2 years completely rejected any notion of cutting the spending, to announce that it's going to have to do that with 6 months to go, I think we have to take that with a pinch of salt.
I want you to hold on whilst we listen to the Finance Minister, Dr. Amin Adam, ahead of this budget review tomorrow, and then we'll come back to continue with our conversation.
Successfully negotiating our debts with our creditors and with macroeconomic stability returning to our economy, we now have an opportunity because the time is right for us to focus on growth. And this is why His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has decided that we must be intentional about growth. The history of the advanced economies, such as the United States of America, such as Japan, the United Kingdom, really cannot be complete without the role of SMEs. We have an example to follow. In countries like Korea, for example, Kia, which started as a small company, started with manufacturing bicycles, is today one of the largest car manufacturing companies in the world. The SME Growth and Opportunity Program, what we call SME Go, is a very important program.
You heard Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam. Professor Patrick Esuming is still on the line with us. In summary, he's saying that the government has already said that it wants to be intentional about growth. Your preliminary comment on this?
Well, I think it's all well and good saying that you're going to be intentional about growth. But, I mean, the reality is that we haven't really seen, specific announcements or specific programs that are believable for us to believe, to understand and appreciate that indeed the government is trying to grow the economy. I think in the last couple of years, the main thing has been trying to stabilize the government finances. It has been successful to some extent, but we know that the overall economy is still unstable. And at the moment, I'm not sure where that additional funding will come or what exactly the government is going to do to try additionally to boost growth. What I hope will happen is that there will be an announcement of specific things that government will plan to redirect this economy going forward beyond the IMF program. But up to this point, all the growth you've seen have come from either programs that are already been in place. So in the first quarter, for instance, a lot of the growth came from the mining, the extractive sector. That's because new mines have opened and oil prices have been rising, so that has boosted some production. And then there's ICT. Otherwise, the main real sector that Ghanaians are actively participating in, we haven't really seen much growth there. So I want to hear something very concrete, not just saying I'm going to be intentional. So hopefully tomorrow when it's ready, those specific details might be complicated.
So you talk about specificity and redirecting growth. Are you able to mention, for instance, one of them that could tackle some of these issues? And when I say some of these issues, I want to read a summary of some key economic data that we have. Unemployment, 14.7%, total death, 658.6 billion cedis, debt to GDP ratio, 62.7. Then you have GDP, $84.68 billion, monetary policy rate 29%, inflation 22.8%.
Well, I think if you listen to the news about the economy and ordinary Ghanaians, rising food prices is one of the main concerns that's been happening in the last few years. And we haven't made the required investment in spite of having implemented planting for food and jobs for all this while. We haven't seen enough progress. So if there was something specific that it's very important that we make investment, it will be in the area of food production. Unfortunately, because we are in the IMF program, the government's ability to even provide those variety seeds, high-yielding seeds, as well as the fertilizer program, is limited. Those are not coming anymore. So we want to see more investment, but also in the area of food storage and distribution. So when we are able to restart some of the road construction projects, we want to see the road construction being driven by the need to make sure that connection to the main food production baskets are stronger, so that when we produce food, we're able to get them to the market and then help reduce food prices. So those kind of investment, especially in the agri sector, in the real sector, is what I expect to see. So we will see. Since the completion or the apparent completion of the debt restructuring, there should be some room for additional spending, especially in terms of road construction, up to about 250 million. What I want to see the government doing, instead of connecting it to where we are likely to get votes, we should connect it to building or resurfacing some of the roads that lead to our main production areas. We are in the planting season, and every year we see that post-harvest losses are piling up and they are increasing. So we have to address those. At this time that food prices are increasing very rapidly, we want to see government at least tackle those elements.
Wondered here. Thank you very much. Professor Patrick Esuming, he's an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, despite concerns about the high cost of internet data for the average Ghanaian, the National Communications Authority, NCA, says Ghanaians are better off. The NCA, in a release following social media agitation for a reduction in data cost, argues that Ghana has the third cheapest data cost on the African continent and first in West Africa. Hence, the agitations are without basis. Social media from the weekend has been awash with demand by users for a dissolution of the NCA board and the outright reduction in the cost of data. The concerns have also been fueled by the classification of MTN as a significant market power, SMP, which saw data prices hiked over the last 2 years. And we'll bring you a breakdown of that statement from the NCA. Noble Crosby Anan is in the studio to do just that for us. Crosby, what can you tell us?
Right, so Beatrice, you know that the NCA is facing a series of criticisms from social media over the high internet data pricing. You know that, now getting data is almost costing a fortune. The subject of a high cost of data, it resurfaced on the social media platforms over the weekend after an ex-user. So he posted about MTN being declared a significant market power, which he claimed accounts for MTN's high cost of data. So if you look at the spectrum from MTN, Telecel, Airtel, Tigo, data is expensive, although some users may be wanting to tilt towards one of them. Subsequently, it led to a series of several rounds on social media, mainly lamenting the cost of internet data in the country. And that prompted the NCA to respond to the public concerns. Well, in the statement issued by the NCA, it explained the classification of MTN as an SMP, and I'm talking about a significant market power. The NCA says it is not to stifle MTN's operations, rather to uphold fair competition in the telecommunications industry. So if you look at all the stakeholders in the space, all the telecommunication networks, MTN is a significant market power. That implies the number of control it has in the market. So the NCA says it is important to know that the SMP classification is not intended to punish or stifle MTN's operations, but rather to ensure a level playing field in the market and protect consumer choice, else MTN will take over the space. He says by implementing measures such as asymmetric interconnection rate, tariff parity, and technology neutrality, the NCA aims to promote competition, encourage innovation, and protect consumers' interest. Now, these measures enable other operations to compete effectively over and offer sustainable pricing and invest in improving service quality. That's according to the statement. Well, the authority also cited a publication by cable.co.uk, and they claimed that Ghana is third in Africa when it comes to countries with cheapest cost of pricing for mobile internet service. The NCA said the report, which it received, also ranked Ghana as the second in West Africa.
Thank you very much, Noble Crosby, and bringing us details of that statement from the National Communications Authority. Let's speak to Dr. Edward Danswanson. He's a lecturer, Department of Computer Science at the University of Ghana and a cybersecurity expert. Good afternoon to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me.
Data costs generally high. That's the refrain of young people, but the NCA seems to think otherwise. As you just heard my colleague read details of that statement there. Who is in the right here?
Yes, this particular conversation is a very tricky one because I have done some quick, analysis of the costs across Africa. And if you look at the data, for instance, from the Cote d'Ivoire, for instance, 1.2 gig cost that's in the city equivalent is about 25 cities. Nigeria, we all know, is by far the cheapest. 1.2 gig costs somewhere around 1 city, 42 pesos. Very, very, very cheap in terms of the cost analysis. If you look at the other parts of Africa, like Benin and Uganda and so on, the costs actually hovers around the same amount that we actually pay here in Ghana. Because in Ghana, for instance, 1.2 gig is about 20 Ghana cedis. But one thing that we always lose sight of is that the cost is not only based on the conversion to dollar and then, carrying out the exchange rate and then knowing which one is the most cheapest. But it has everything to do rather with the cost of living, the inflation and all other things that are associated with it. So the reason why people are currently complaining that there is a high cost, it's simply as a result of the fact that the exchange rate has gone higher up. And then, in terms of the high cost of living and everything. So that has actually significantly contributed to it. So that's what I can say.
So what you're saying is that with your own analysis, the NCA is not telling us entirely the truth. Because you just mentioned that Nigeria...
It actually tells me that, yes, Nigeria in West Africa is it has the most cheapest. But the other countries in West Africa, Ghana is hovering around the second position as it was actually stated. But the other countries is not too costly based on what we actually have. But the difficulty or the challenge that we seem to be having is as a result of the fact that there was a huge exchange rate, differential that has also contributed to the high cost that we are actually seeing now. And with the point of the NCA classifying MTN as an SNP, yes, indeed, it is part of the mandate of NCA. And in the technology sector, we always need to ensure there is no monopoly. And that's one of the, hallmark or the laws that is backing NCA in this particular, action that it actually took. But I don't also see this as a way of, punishing MTN for becoming that. But one thing I wish to add is that NCA should have been more transparent in telling us the research, the analysis that they actually did, and the cost differential that they actually came up with. That will, help us all to be able to really appreciate the amount that was actually added in terms of what MTN is also adding to its cost based on the new, threshold that it has actually been placed on. So that is what I can say, because it was based on stakeholder engagement that NCA did. It was also based on other interactions and some data that they also went around collecting. But I still believe that if they are to be more transparent with us by giving us details of all the data that they actually took, the price differential that has been added to it, so we can know whether it is rather MTN which is added more to the cost, or it is based on how the NCA has actually placed MTN on the XMP that has rather contributed to that.
And for you, clarity and transparency from the NCA would settle the argument?
Of course, that is what I think Ghanaians should rather be clearing more on, instead of just telling that the cost is much higher and all that. We should rather be looking more on the clarity and then transparency as to what contributed to the data and the analysis that they actually came up with.
Thank you very much. We wanted here Dr. Edward Danso Anson. He's a lecturer at the Department of Computer Science, University of Ghana, and a cybersecurity expert. Let's go up north. And the overlord of the Gonja State, Yagbonra B. Kununto Jewuswale, has directed the secretary to the Gonja Traditional Council as a matter of urgency to write letters to all paramount chiefs in the kingdom to enforce the ban on MP for Damango Samuel Abujinapo from visiting any palace in the kingdom. The king has also reiterated his caution to the chiefs that serious sanctions will be imposed on any chief who would defy the orders. The Yagbonra on Sunday, July 21, that's just yesterday, placed a ban on the Damango lawmaker Abujinapo from visiting any palace in the Gonja land. The king mentioned insubordination, disrespect, abuse of government powers and interference in traditional matters as reasons for the ban. Savannah region correspondent Christopher Marco joins us live on the phone. Chris, it's been 24 hours since the announcement of the ban. Have the letters got into the various paramountcies yet? Okay, we seem to have lost Christopher Amwakon on the line, but you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. So here on the Midday News on 3FM, thank you for staying whilst we try to reconnect to Christopher Mwako to bring us updates on that Yagbonra and the ban on Samuel Abujinapo. Let's bring you this. And the National Association of Graduate Teachers has called for immediate dissolution of the National Schools Inspectorate Authority without delay. The president of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, says the authority has failed to perform its supervisory mandate beyond just collecting fees from private schools. He spoke to Labour Affairs correspondent Daniel Opoku.
One agency that I think we need serious review is the National School Inspectorate Agency, NASIA, because I think the NASIA concept as it is being run now is not achieving its purpose. And if I can make some suggestion to the government, I want the government to collapse the NASIA as it is currently established. Because you see, you cannot have an agency that is supposed to go to schools to inspect the schools and bring report as to how the schools are operating, whether they are operating according to the rules and regulation. For that agency not to have the qualified people above even the people they are going to inspect. So we are having difficulty with the NASIA. One, what caliber of people are being sent to the school to inspect the work of the school? I have really never read any quarterly report of NASIA to identify the challenges that are in the various schools. So for me, the NASIA, and then again, the NASIA is responsible for the collection of fees from private schools. How can the agency that is meant to inspect institutions, for the institutions to work within standard, be collecting fees from those same institutions?
And you heard Angel Kabonu. He is the president of NAGRAT. Let's return to our earlier story about that ban on Samuel Abujinapo. Christopher Mwako is on the line with us. Christopher, just bring us the latest as regards, particularly whether those letters have reached the paramountcies yet. Christopher, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Excellent. What can you tell us about what's happening there in your area?
Yes, so in respect to yesterday's ban on the Lands and Natural Resources Minister for him not to visit any palace in the Savannah region, the Paramount Chief or the Yagbonra has actually issued a directive to all the Paramount Chiefs, has dispatched letters to the Paramount Chiefs in the various paramountcies in the Gonja Kingdom to adhere to the announcement he made yesterday, and he's cautioning that any chief who fails to adhere or to implement what he said yesterday will find himself in trouble.
And I know that in the midst of this, the minister also issued a statement. Can you give us a summary of what he said? We'll wrap up our conversation with that.
Yeah, so basically this is the second time the minister is issuing such a statement. The first one was on Tuesday when the people of Damango held a press conference indicating that he's been interfering in traditional matters. Yesterday as well, he introduced, he issued a statement, and in that statement, what he's talking about is the fact that he's a prince of Gunjaland and that he will not do anything that would undermine the integrity of the Gonja Kingdom. His interest is to see the Damango constituency develop, and that is what he's working at. And so the general public should disregard any such ban on him by the traditional authority.
Christopher Mwako is our Savannah region correspondent. Thank you for bringing us those details. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Ghana to benefit from combined capital of $65 billion from Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions for Africa's economic development.
Formation underscores Africa's commitment to self-reliance and sustainable economic development.
Also ahead of the mid-year budget review slated tomorrow, July 23, 2024, Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors urges government to address rapid depreciation of the cedi.
We expect relative stability with the currency because that drives everything.
My name is Manu. Afful will bring you details of these and more shortly. Do stay with me. With Ghana, as it's among other African countries set to benefit from a combined capital of $65 billion from the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions for Economic Development. Also known as Africa Club, the alliance set up by treaty was launched in collaboration with the African Union Commission by African heads of state on February 17, 2024 in Addis Ababa. Addressing the media on the site of the 6th African Union Media Coordination meeting in Accra, Chairman of the AAMFI, also President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Benedict Orama, said the alliance was set up to address financing gaps in Africa's development.
The alliance's formation underscores Africa's commitment to self-reliance and sustainable economic development, leveraging homegrown solutions and resources for the continent's advancement. It is a critical initiative that we believe will be transformative for the continent, ensuring the effective mobilization of our domestic resources as well as international resources towards the continent's trade and economic development. By the formation of the alliance, we demonstrate that we recognize that there is strength in unity. And although we are separate institutions and independent institutions, that collectively we have one purpose: to improve the economic conditions on the continent of Africa and restore the dignity of all Africans. And it's by coming together that $1 invested in mutual funds by our member countries can go very far. We are very grateful for the immense support and patronage of the African Union for this initiative and the African Union champion for AU financial institutions.
That was chairman of the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institution, who is also president of the Afrexim Bank, Benedict Urama. Meanwhile, the membership of the AAMFI includes Africa Finance Corporation, African Export-Import Bank, Trade and Development Bank Group, African Reinsurance Corporation, among others. Away from that, Executive Director of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, Nana Asantewaa Afajinu, has expressed concerns about the limited awareness among citizens of the benefits and opportunities offered by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. She notes that even institutions responsible for implementing the agreement lack a clear understanding of its regulations, resulting in unnecessary frustrations for business operators at ports and borders. To address this issue, she is urging civil society organizations to take on the responsibility of educating citizens about their rights and entitlements under the trade agreement.
Africa trades with Europe more than it trades with itself. And yet we have so many resources here. We have people here, human resources, and all the other resources. And yet we don't really know. Many of us do not even know what that AFTA is about and how it translates into our daily lives and the bread and butter that we eat. Yeah. So that is where civil society comes in. Sure. Because civil society, and again, I'm saying civil society is not only NGOs. There are so many sectors of civil society which go down, right down from national level, right down to the grassroots. How are they engaged in this to make sure that citizens actually benefit? We have to be the watchdogs to make sure that AFTA and all the different policies that are connected to it are actually implemented for the people to benefit.
Executive Director of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, Nana Asantewaa Afajinu, there. Now, ahead of this year's mid-year budget review tomorrow, the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is urging government to address the rapid depreciation of the cedi. There have been several upward adjustments in pump prices over the last couple of months due to the poor performance of the local currency. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the climax of this year's Ghana International Petroleum Conference, CEO of Seaboard, Dr. Patrick Ofori, also called for a review of some charges by the industry regulator.
We expect some comfort. We expect relative stability with the currency because that drives everything. And we also expect that there is going to be some form of reduction in the variable charges that the regulator is charging us, and it's something that we are looking forward to.
Well, you heard the voice of the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Patrick Ofori, there. In more stories, Minister for Trade and Industry has revealed that on the passage of the legislative instrument on cement pricing, manufacturers of the product who fail to regularly submit their cost build-up details before the designated committee risk losing their license. Katie Hammond said this transparency allows government to assess the fairness of cement prices. President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obing, says his organization supports the LI, adding that it will bring some sanity to the cement retail industry.
I'm not saying that it's going to control anybody because that's not what it seeks. But if it was something like controlling, that's price control, because we are not in price control regime. In that case, we would be against it. But from all intents and purposes, it has been explained that it is not related to price control, but then to just seek transparency and provide comfort to the government and generality of the good people of Ghana.
That was the voice of Dr. Joseph Obing, president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Meanwhile, the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry still has reservations on the LI, raising concerns about its legality. Manu is chairman of the chamber.
From what our lawyers advise, the LI is not in conformity with the mother law that they are coming under. We would look at it again and then see whether the explanation given by the minister is okay. For him, it's about issue of law and it's in parliament. So if it is illegal or unconstitutional, parliament should be able to say it. So we'll look at it and then when the bill comes out, the LI comes out, we see how we'll take it from there. But clearly, the minister has given some more details on the issues that we wanted him to answer. And so we are going to brood over that and then see how we move forward after here.
Chairman of the Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, Manu there. Well, that's it for Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please check out our website on www.3news.com. My name is Manu. Afful, do stay tuned. Urban Blend is up next.